Today I'm going to show you how to make chocolates. I know these are a little bit messy, but they will be the final product in the end. And it starts with the filling, and the filling we're going to use is something called ganache. Ganache is just a combination of heated cream and chocolate. And if you can see here, we've got 3 different types. So the first type is a 1-to-2 ratio, which is 1 part of chocolate to 2 parts of cream. As you can see, it's got a very light, very thin consistency. That can be used for many different processes. We're not going to use it in this recipe, but that's just one. The next one we're going to see, if you can see how thick and glossy and dark colored this one is a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 parts of chocolate, 1 part of heated heavy cream. This is really great if you want to mold it and then roll it into cocoa powder and then serve that as a truffle. This is not what we're going to use in today's recipe, but it's got some great applications. The one we're actually going to use for this recipe is 1 part chocolate to 1 part heated heavy cream. So you take that cream and you heat it up and then put it into the chocolate and let that sit until the chocolate has melted. Stir that up really nicely and then let that cool down to a whipping consistency. We're going to whip that, and once it is whipped nice and fluffy, which could also be used as a mousse, we will put it into our pre-made molds. So as you can see here, I've got a heart mold, and I have just lined it with a little bit of red melting chocolate. I put that into a very low oven for just a few minutes and allowed that red chocolate to just sort of coat the bottom. Use like a little brush to bring it up the sides, and I'm letting that sit because then I'm going to cover it with a coat of dark chocolate. It's really important when you are doing chocolate candy making to do something called tempering your chocolate. And in a double boiler, or if you have a specific chocolate melter, you initially bring the temperature of that chocolate up to about 119, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's very important that you don't go over or under that temperature. So once you start with your thermometer looking at the temperature, it's really important to keep an eye on that. Okay, now you've got it to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. You take it off of the stove and you add something called seeded chocolate. It's just basically chocolate chips that you're going to add in there to help cool it down, because you want to cool that down to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, you've brought it down to 82 degrees. Now you need to bring it back up between 88 and 90 degrees. And I know this sounds really complicated, but this is what helps to give that really nice, hard, firm, and very shiny structure to your chocolate. So you put it back onto that double boiler and bring it back up to 88 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it's ready to pour into your molds. Now you're ready to pour it into the molds. I'm just using a tablespoon measure to pour it into the molds, and then you tip it around and you allow all that chocolate to coat the inside of that mold. Once you've done that, you sort of scrape down the top to get all that excess chocolate out. You tap that to get as much excess chocolate out as you can and put that back into the pan because you're going to reuse that chocolate. The next thing you want to do is take that mold and turn it out onto a clean surface and allow that to sit for a few minutes until you collect any of the extra drippings. Once those drippings have been collected, then you can scrape those drippings off. You can put those back into your chocolate pan and let those warm back up again because we'll be reusing them. Okay, you want to take your mold that has dried and you want to add your ganache to it. I just use a spoon to spoon in pieces of ganache into each one of the little holes, and then hit it on the counter, and then take an offset spatula and even it all out. Now you have your pre-filled molds and you're ready to add the chocolate that's been sitting, keeping warm on the stovetop. You want to pour a thin layer over the top of those molds. Take your offset spatula and even that out and make that nice and flat and smooth. And once you have that all nice and flat and smooth, you allow that to cool until it gets this sort of matte color all over it. Now that it's dry and set, you want to put it back onto a clean surface and you want to get rid of all the extra little pieces that are on the top. And then take those, scrape those back up again, and you can put them back into your pan of chocolate because this is very much reusable. Now that you've got it all set and cleaned off the top, you're ready to unmold. And then once you unmold them, they kind of look like this. These are a little bit messy. I rushed them, but the neater that you are with that red coloring, if you decide to use it, the nicer they are at the end. And then take all that extra chocolate that you have and you scoop it up and put it into a container and store that at room temperature because you can reuse that. And there you have it, your chocolate candies. I hope you enjoy.